welcome to Novel Console, and this is a very special episode called Loading Memories. I don't know if I'm going to stick with that game because I've been fighting over the game the whole time, and I think I came up with a very good name last night in a half-asleep stupor, but I completely fucking forgot the name. But what I didn't forget is our very special guest, Eric Gess from the Unlockables Podcast. Eric, my dude, it's been a long time coming that we've had to sit down and talk. How are you doing, my man?
Chris, I'm doing awesome. Thank you so much for having me on. You're right. We've been kind of talking about this for a while now, and finally we were just like, F it, let's just sit down and talk about some stuff. So very, very excited to be here. I'm a huge fan of you and your show. I listen every single week. So it's an honor for you to invite me into your metaphorical audio home in the hopes that I don't mess it up.
Yeah, no. You're good. This is something that I've been wanting to do because this is the first time I'm doing a Loading Memories. I'm still unsure about that fucking name. It's so weird.
We'll
episode. So basically, yeah, we'll workshop it. So basically, I just want to invite people from the community, be it creators, listeners, anybody at all that has ever played a video game and has memories attached to it. Can you imagine playing video games and not having any memories or feelings attached to them? Like, what a miserable existence.
You just play them to hate them. You're just like, this is my job. I hate this with all my life.
Right? It's like me playing Halo. It's like, fuck this game. But no, yeah. So I just want to bring people on, just talk for maybe an hour or so, maybe more, depending on time, and go from there. So, Eric, why don't you tell me about your favorite type of games? What sort of games do you like? What speaks to you?
Man, I kind of like to try and play everything, kind of all walks of life. I started my young video gaming life with platformers and kind of just expanded out to RPGs. And, I went through a big shooter phase in high school where I was playing with shooters. And then it's just kind of been anything and everything I feel like that interests me. But if I had to pick one that I would say has kind of stuck with me the most throughout my life, it's definitely RPG genre. I love me a good RPG, especially now in my life where I'm like getting a little older and I'm just tired of the young kids on, the Call of Duties and all that stuff shit talking me 24/7. So I kind of like playing by myself and experiencing like a good story, And that's really what I go out of my way to play nowadays, unless like somebody hypes something up and they're like, you have to play this, or how the FOMO gets you where everyone's talking about it and you're like, well, everyone is playing this, I guess I better play this now.
See, that's how I felt when you were talking about Baldur's Gate. I was like, I kind of want to run it on Steam Deck because it's supposed to run, but can my computer run it? And then I bought it. I'm like, I'm just going to wait for the PS5 version. And the PS5 version came out and I bought it. I'm like, I'm just going to wait till I get on a plane so I can start this game.
Actually, I tried to run it on. It's not a great experience on Steam Deck. I ran the early access a little bit, and I was like, I should probably run the full game just to kind of see. But early access Baldur's Gate on the Steam Deck wasn't fantastic. So I was like, man, I'm not usually a PC gamer, but do I want to dive into this? And I was just like, yeah, I couldn't. Yeah, and I was hyping it up there too, and I was just like, everyone, you have to play this now. So I wasn't helping people with the FOMO at all.
Oh no, you were not. Like I bought it, right, and I put it on Steam Deck, and I'm having issues to get it to just run. And I look online and Reddit is like, oh, just toggle this one setting. So I toggled it and it worked. I'm like, yes, I'm gonna fucking play the game, and I never did. And then I saw Jalachan on Twitter being like, play Baldur's Gate, but only for 30 minutes at a time because that's all the Steam Deck will give you.
Shreds that battery life. And I've been playing it, but I haven't played it in probably about 2 weeks just because I hit a point where I was like almost so overwhelmed. And I think I have to blame my ADHD for this because like I want to like experience literally everything, and that's not how the game is designed like at all. It's designed to be played like multiple times in multiple different ways, and I'm just like every time I'm like inching forward through the game because I don't want to miss anything at all on this playthrough, and it's just like I have to get past that mental barrier where it's like, no, you're gonna have to play this multiple times to experience everything, so just go ahead. I'm that person in Skyrim that just like picks up everything and searches every little nook and cranny. So that's currently where I am with Baldur's Gate, but I plan to come back to it and hopefully finish it by the time the year is over.
Man, but we're having a year, dude. We are having so many good games.
It's been, oh man, it's been crazy. Like the middle of summer was especially nuts because we had Zelda, and then I power houred Zelda. Like I put so much time into that game because I'm like, Zelda has to be done by the time Final Fantasy comes out. And then I was like, Final Fantasy has to be done by the time Baldur's Gate comes out. And I don't normally like to commit myself to playing like these humongous RPGs like back to back. Like I like smaller games in between as like palate cleansers, but it's just been pretty much like back to back nonstop gigantic games, especially when I've been throwing in trying to play the Kingdom Hearts titles for my show as well.
See, I wanted to get through the whole Kingdom Hearts series. I beat the first one for the first time ever this year.
Oh yeah.
And I was immediately, going into Chain of Memories on the Game Boy, and I don't know what happened.
You just kind of hit a wall. If it wasn't for my self-imposed like I must play them for the show, I probably would have like kind of taken a break from them. But alas, the fans demand the content, so.
And what great content it is, dude. How many hours did you say that it takes to listen to the whole thing that you have out so far?
Yeah, so Guiding Keys, I'm playing the entire Kingdom Hearts series and kind of like just trying to explain them as thoroughly as possible. As of this recording, we're through 358 over 2 days. And I think in episode hours, I think I'm like at 18 or 19 hours of content right now for just the 4 games. So yeah, they are very, very thorough deep dives into the story, into the characters, and the development of everything of those games. I did 2 episodes on the first one, 2 episodes on Chain of Memories, 5 episodes on 2, and then 358 was just 1 episode. But as we get closer towards the end, I'm pretty sure the episodes are going to get bigger, longer, and just more of them.
You did 5 episodes on 2?
Yeah, just because I should show you guys the notes. I should post them sometime. It was like 50 pages, and I go back and I watch all the cutscenes, and I meticulously like note every little thing that happens, and then I'll like backtrack and try and connect things in between the games and stuff. So yeah, I split that into 5 parts just to kind of like ease people's listening experience, because some of those episodes are like 2 hours long, and I'm like, that's way too long for anybody to just be listening to me ramble about an insane Disney Donald Duck wizard game.
See, it is 5 parts. I loved every single second, dude. It was fantastic. But to me, having listened to it, it doesn't feel like 5 parts. And now that I look at it, I'm like, holy fuck, it was 5 parts.
Yeah, which I have to thank you. You've been very supportive of that creative project. So it's really, sometimes in the middle of those slogs, I'm just like, why am I doing this to myself? And it's just, it just becomes something where I'm just like, this is out of hand. And then you're so supportive of the episodes when they come out. I'm just like, okay, like I need to keep going with this.
See, 'cause the thing is, I love video games, right? Like, I'm sure you love video games. And what I like about video games is the most, apart from the gameplay, is the stories that they tell. Because these stories are either very emotional or fucking batshit crazy, that they're just, this is the only place where you will experience this story. And I love podcasts that just go through the story, like what Rick Firestone did with Final Fantasy VI with Chris Copeland. Those episodes were amazing. They were fantastic. They were as great as playing the games. I love when podcasts are like that. I really dislike when podcasts get into the metagame of what means what in the story, or what this character did, or what this sword represents, or how that made me feel about the economic climate that we're in right now. Like, I don't care. I'll put on CNN for that shit. I don't care. I want to hear the story, and I want somebody that's good telling the story like you are. So that's why I've been like, holy shit, this is awesome. And it just reminds me of these awesome games that I played years ago that I want to go back to, but I probably won't because I don't have time.
No, yeah, time is the great equalizer, and we'll never have time like we used to when we were younger. But no, I agree with you. I do enjoy that style of podcast too, where it's kind of like just like a breakdown of the story, and it's almost to the point where, you know, I was searching for like an identity for my show for a long time, and originally I was like bringing on a lot of guests, interviewing guests and stuff like that, and I still plan on doing that. I'm doing less episodes than I used to just because life's gotten so crazy, but I wanted to just go through. The catalyst was like the joke I always saw online was like, oh, Kingdom Hearts is too complicated and the story is insane. And I'm like, well, I have a podcast. I could like just tell the entire story in a way that hopefully people could understand with overwhelming amounts of detail. Because yeah, I love those games. It's my favorite game series of all time, and I love, despite what a polarizing figure he is, I love the way that Nomura just tells story and just like mind fucks everybody all the time. So yeah, I kind of shifted to this. The guiding keys has kind of become like my North Star. That principle of like I'm gonna tell the story of video games in this manner. Whether that's, breaking down the game like that. I have other series of games in the series that I definitely want to do that with. I've been trying to like write more pieces and do like more in-depth stuff of not just like the stare at the game and analyze it and see if it breaks and give it like a 8 out of 10 or whatever.
Right. I completely get that. That's something that I've been kind of trying to do lately with the podcast, because we used to do, man, we probably have like 100 episodes of just me and my wife reviewing a book and a game. But the original idea was for her to tell me the crazy shit that happens in books and for me to tell her the crazy shit that happens in games. And I feel like we're finally getting there, but it's taken us so long for us to figure out exactly how to do that. So I know what what you're going through with this shit, but our thing is not as researched as yours, because I'm not reading the fucking Amazon reports. You are, and I appreciate that you tell me what they say, because I don't want to read them. But I will tell my wife what happens in Tears of the Kingdom and why I hate Sidon so much. And she will tell me why a robot making tea is a wonderful thing to have in this world.
I gotta say, I was surprised on your Sidon take. Because I went on an episode like the week before that came out with the Play Along Boys, and it was the Zoro's Domain episode, and I was just like, man, I would love to have just a bro like Sidon who's just like there for me throughout everything. And then Chris is like, this guy's so fucking annoying. Like, I swear to God.
He's so fake, dude. He's so fake. He's the type that will, invite you over. He'll have a barbecue and whatnot. You will have the greatest time of your life. You'll leave, and as soon as you walk out the door, he'll say, "That guy is a fucking douchebag. I hate him so much." I know that he eats babies for breakfast. I don't trust him.
Maybe that's just like the Zora culture. Maybe they just eat babies. I don't know. It's very possible. But yeah, right? Ever since I look at it that light, I'm like, he is a little bit more insidious than he presents himself.
Right. I'm glad that I'm not just crazy and somebody else can see that.
Yeah. When you look at it through the lens of like somebody else saying it, you're just like, oh yeah, I kind of get that. That's something doesn't quite add up with that guy.
Right. Like what are you talking to everybody about me? Like we're not that close, dude.
Right. You need to build a statue for me. I mean, geez.
Right, and then have me writing on your back. That's weird, dude. That's super weird.
You get a Hibernian restraining order.
So you said that Kingdom Hearts is your favorite series?
Yeah, it is. It's just kind of been one that's kind of stuck with me over the years, and I didn't even like really go out of my way to like make it my favorite series. I played 1 and I was like, okay, that was pretty cool. And then I played 2 when it came out and I was like, all right, this is great. And then like something happened in like college at the end of the 2000s where like I met some people that were into it. And one of my first college buddies, we kind of bonded talking about the game. And then that's when I got like super into it and just super into all the crazy stuff that Nomura was putting out there. So yeah, it just really kind of happened without an expectation. And it's been a game that I've been able to go to. It's just kind of like my comfort game. I go to it in like the good times, the bad times, whenever I'm just like kind of like feeling down or just bored or need something to do. It's just a game that I know I can go to and have a great time with.
I can understand that, especially 2 is such a wonderful game. That game, I feel like they captured lightning in a bottle with the first game.
Yes.
And then somehow they did an even grander feat with the second one because it's so good.
Yeah, and it's pretty amazing to see a game, especially a sequel, make that kind of jump. Whereas, like, I think one is good. I have some obvious problems with one as compared to like how fluid the rest of the series is. But yeah, seeing in hindsight, like making that jump from one to two is really, really incredible. And I say to this day, I think Kingdom Hearts 2 is the best RPG on the PlayStation 2, which is a bold claim because there's some big games on the PlayStation 2.
That is a big claim. And honestly, I came into the PlayStation 2 very late in the life cycle. Shit, I think the PlayStation 3 was out by the time I got it too.
Oh, wow.
So I was able to play, the entire PlayStation 2 backlog. Not all of it, but a lot of it.
Right.
And I gotta say, dude, yeah, I can agree with that Kingdom Hearts 2, it could arguably be the best RPG on the PlayStation 2.
Right. I understand it's not like the traditional, like I know I've fought with Final Fantasy X fans about this. I have my own qualms about that game, but yeah, I just love it.
You got to tell me. You
Oh, I have to tell you, man.
Yeah. What's wrong with Final Fantasy X?
So I think it's good. Right. I enjoy Final Fantasy X for what it is. I don't think it's as like good as everyone hypes up to be. And I don't know what it is. Maybe just because I played it later, it just didn't hit me when it was already hyped up. We give Final Fantasy 13 a lot of shit, and Final Fantasy 10 like does a lot of the same stuff with like the hallways and the linearness and stuff. So that's like something I never really got, where it's people are like, "Oh, 13 is so like linear with hallways and stuff," and I'm like, "Yeah, but like 10 is the same kind of thing, really." I don't know. Maybe I need to go back and replay it, but it's just, it never hit me as hard as like 9 did or anything like that.
Okay. I can see. So it's not, it's more what people say about the game. It's not the game itself being.
Yeah. I had the same problem with, it's kind of like when you play a thing that's been hyped for so long and it's just like, it can't possibly live up to the expectations. It was the same thing with when I finally played Undertale. Like, I had spent like 4 years like just hearing that Undertale is like the greatest thing ever. And like, don't get me wrong, like Undertale's fantastic, but just there's no way it could live up to that just impossibly high bar that was set. I mean, Dave and I from Tales from the Backlog did an Undertale episode where we kind of were like, yeah, this game's really good, but just the internet hypes it up so much that like our perspective of it was like warped when we played it. So I think, yeah, just years of everybody, I was playing Final Fantasy 9 when 10 came out, and everyone's just like, 10's so great. And I played it all these years later, and I was just like, yeah, it's good. I can like understand why, but I think just you had to be there like at the time for when it was released to kind of see.
Now that you're saying that, yes, I can see that a whole lot. Like I said, I got a PlayStation 2 very late, so I already had Persona 3. I already had Persona 4. I had Kingdom Hearts 2. I had played Tales of the Abyss.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot of
right?
good games.
And then my friend is like, play Final Fantasy X, and I play it. I'm like, I hate everybody in this game, and the combat is fine. That's it. And so I can see how it's a thing of you had to be there.
Right.
Kind of like Final Fantasy VII. You had to be there, because if you play it now, you're going to be like, it's just another RPG. It really doesn't do anything outlandish or insane or revolutionary. It's just another RPG.
Right, and I played 12 and 13 before I played 10 even, so it was like I was already like looking at 10 through like the more modern Final Fantasy lens. So it's just, again, it's kind of weird, and a lot of those games are like subject to like when you played them and when you jumped into the series. So that could be a whole episode in and of itself, honestly.
Right. But yeah, no, and going back to Final Fantasy VII, I have been on a Final Fantasy VII kick after I finished Final Fantasy 16. Mm-hmm. I jumped straight into Crisis Core Reunion to finish it.
Oh, yeah.
And now that I'm older, right, I'm 33, I have a better grasp of the English language than I did when I played it when I was in high school. Holy fuck, does that expand the Final Fantasy VII world. It adds so many layers. And wow, now I want to play through Final Fantasy VII, Dirge of Cerberus, the fucking watch the movie again, the anime, the manga, everything. Because wow, Nomura did a great job in that remake.
Yeah, he honestly I've gotten that itch too, where it's like I know Rebirth is like on the horizon, and I'm like, man, I need to replay Remake. I should like I haven't ever played any like the Crisis Core extended stuff. I've really just had experience with 7, Advent Children, and the remake. So I feel like there's a large like gap of knowledge there that I just have never. I know they just came out with the mobile game too, Ever Crisis, that I think, based on my understanding, that kind of recaps like all those events and stuff. So I mean, yeah, we're living. It's insane to see that a game that came out when I was 6 years old is having a renaissance like 25 years later. It's just
Right.
really makes you feel old.
Now, I will say, if you haven't played Crisis Core Reunion, the remake, it's a perfect jumping on point. And especially if you have some of the background of remake or the original 7, knowing how these characters were before they became how they are is just it is heavy, dude. It gets real heavy for this game about spiky haired people with giant swords fighting the company that's destroying the world. So
If you're telling me it's classic Nomura stuff, it sounds right up my alley. And I think that's
oh,
why, again, too, I think that's why I love it, just because it's, you can bash Nomura and Final Fantasy and all that stuff all you want, but it's such a unique story and experience that they tell and that he tells. It's unlike anything else in video games. And, when I did my Final Fantasy 16 episode, I was like, yeah, Last of Us is great, but, we've done the zombie apocalypse thing before. It's just like, the stuff that Nomura is telling is just like mind-blowingly insane stuff that is just the most unique story in video games that I've ever experienced. So I think that's just what I can play shooters all the live long day, but nothing transports me to that world than the stories that he tells.
right. And it Nomura, he has such a unique style. Like Final Fantasy VII Reunion has a lot of that Kingdom Heartsy weird, bubbly, hokey. Everybody's having a great time moments while something really
Until
bad
they're
is
not.
happening.
Yeah.
Right, and like even the bad times are still good. And I wish some of the scenes were a little bit more serious, but the rest of them just work. And it's him. It's his style. It's great. And seeing what he did with 16, I was completely blown out of the water. And I don't know if you listened to our episode with Nikolai at Night from Final Fantasy 16. We were supposed to
Yes.
talk for an hour. We spoke for 2 hours about the game. And I feel like we still didn't say enough. And I cannot wait for the episode with you, him, and all the other guys he has, because I need to hear more of the opinions that you guys have about the game. Because
No, I'm glad I said so as much in my episode. I was a little bit worried because I think I was just on the darker side of Twitter because for the record, for everybody out there, like I genuinely enjoyed that game. I thought it was a fantastic experience. And like all Final Fantasy experiences, there are some components of it that are flawed, but I think its flaws ultimately make it what it is. I came out like super positive on that game. And when I was done, I put the controller down. I was just like, man, what did I just play? It was insane. Like, sure, there were some annoying stuff like the side quests and it slows way down. And what's that fucking guy's name? Barnabas can be kind of, annoying. But right now in my Game of the Year rankings, like it's higher than Zelda. So I think that's probably saying something, unless, you don't like Zelda, but I don't know.
no. So even though I wasn't big on Zelda, I still think it's a fantastic game, and anybody that has a Switch needs to have it in their collection
Yes.
because it's fantastic. Was it for me? No, but still, great game.
Right.
Final Fantasy 16 is definitely higher on the list with me, and I wanted to make this joke in the episode, so I'm going to do it now. I feel like they created a cast of incredible characters, and they had a pool of shitty ideas for characters, and they just turned it into a ball and put it in Barnabas.
Yeah.
He is fucking terrible. What a bad character, dude.
Oh.
It's so Awful.
He's certainly, yeah. We could veer off on a Final Fantasy 16 episode if you want to, and then like you notice I am doing that one with Nick from Friday Night Gamecast, and I think I'm doing one with Dave too. So I'm making the rounds on the Final Fantasy 16, and I guess I've been anointed as like the standard bearer because everyone's just like, you coming on the Final Fantasy 16 episode? I'm like, I guess if you want me to. My work with Kingdom Hearts has kind of made me like the Square Enix guy. So I mean, I get if that's my place in the community, I'll take it. Hey.
See, I was like, because I did an episode with the guys at Friday Night Gamecast, and Nick was like, Final Fantasy 16. I'm like, okay, I should ask him to do an episode. And I was like, I'll ask Eric too. But then he's like, I'm doing an episode with Eric and Rick. And I'm like, I don't want to step on his toes, so I'll just leave Eric alone.
I'll come on. Come on anytime if you want to do one.
Oh man, dude. I think my listeners will unsubscribe and drop from the Patreon if I talk more about Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah, and I'm kind of on the same page with you in regards to Zelda too. I think Zelda's a great game. I think you should definitely have if you own a Switch, it's a no-brainer. It's just, I think again for me, it's like, how do you follow up one of the most hyped, successful games of all time? I just don't think it ever reached like the heights or the wonder that Breath of the Wild did for me. It's like the first time when you step out on the plateau and you see like the sprawling lands of Hyrule, that's just like a shocking moment. Well, Falling from the Sky was cool. I never quite had that same like experience and awe as I did with that first game because they changed up enough of the world to where it felt different, but you're just kind of like, oh yeah, like it's different, but it still feels a little familiar. Again, I think it's great, but it just never recaptured that magic that Breath of the Wild had. And I'd be curious now. Right. I have not played Breath of the Wild since Tears came out, so I should go back and just maybe see and play them again side by side. I don't know. Maybe there's a conversation
there. I'm gonna make this. I'm gonna say this, and I think I'm saying nothing after saying this because these two games are somewhat different. But I played Breath of the Wild while I was in truck school, so I put a ton of time in the game. I never finished it. And then a couple of years later, I played Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And Odyssey is the only Assassin's Creed game that I like from the new trilogy.
Okay.
And I thought it was fantastic. And then I tried to go back into Breath of the Wild, and I was like, I did everything that I'm doing in Breath of the Wild better in Assassin's Creed.
Right.
So I don't know if it will hold up for you, but for me, Breath of the Wild didn't. But Tears of the Kingdom was like, I like this, and I can see how people can like it even more than I do because it is fucking brilliant.
I should then play Odyssey then because I haven't of the new trilogy. I've only played Origins, and I thought Origins was pretty good for what it was. But if you're saying that, then maybe I should go play Odyssey and see that comparison there because I've heard that game is just absolutely massive.
If you play as Cassandra, you basically have a Wonder Woman simulator.
That's the selling point right there, honestly.
Right? Right. So crazy, dude. So moving away from the RPGs, is there any other genre that you're into right now that you're enjoying apart from RPGs?
I would say probably the most thing I've played over the last couple of years apart from RPGs is I got sucked into Monster Hunter really hard when Monster Hunter World came out. And that was a series I had tried to get into. I don't even know what genre you would call that. It's just like big monster hunting genre. If it has a specific genre, I guess it's like action adventure. But I had tried a couple games before on like the DS and the PSP, and they just didn't really click with me. And then when World came out, one of my friends got it and was like, this is really cool. And I played with them, and they kind of taught me the ropes. And then just something clicked, and I was like, oh yeah, this is amazing. And to this day, Monster Hunter World is like the most played game. I've like 500 hours in that game. It's insane. And then when Rise came out on the Switch, I was like, this is great. It's Monster Hunter on the Switch. It's on the go. Like, that's fantastic. So other than like RPGs, I mean, mostly what I've been playing for my show, that is kind of like the other big thing over the last couple of years that has kind of like defined my gaming life. And I honestly like couldn't tell you why. It's just, it scratches this itch in my brain where it's like, hey, you want to go fight giant monsters and then make a bunch of equipment and then fight more monsters and make a bunch of equipment and then fight more monsters? I'm like, yeah, that sounds amazing.
See, I've never gotten into Monster Hunter. When Rise came out, I bought it. I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be my Monster Hunter. It's still on my shelf. Like I bought it, put it on the shelf, and it hasn't left.
It's a certain, it definitely takes a certain mindset to want to like sit down and play that, because it's not just you can make a little bit of progress, because all the fights are like, unless you're like really good, which I am by no means not, the fights last like 20 to 30 minutes each. And to everybody that's like not appealing, where you're like, oh, I'm going to spend like 30 minutes fighting the same thing. But it really gives you kind of that same dopamine hit of the like Dark Souls when you finally beat that really big boss. When you finally just beat this dragon that's been kicking your ass for like 30 minutes, it feels fantastic. And then there's so much like, if you have that like shopping list, like to check things off mentality, there's just, you can go so deep into like the equipment and like customizing your loadouts, and like it's like sicko mode stuff. And I absolutely love it.
It's a watch the numbers go up type of situation for you on it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have like different armor sets for like all the different fights, and just you can get so meticulous into the customization. It's really unbelievable. It's a certain type of game for a certain type of person, that's for sure. But other than that, like that's what I've been mostly playing, is like RPGs and that, and then like little stuff that comes out in between. Trying to knock some old retro games off my backlog the last couple of years, just because I have a lot of like shameful gaming sins of stuff I've never played. I finally played Link to the Past for the first time last year. I have Chrono Trigger on the list. I've never played Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy VI. So it's like two huge games that I just need to get off my list, because I feel shameful that I've never played them.
I Link to the Past kind of stinks a little bit that you've never played it until last year.
Yes.
See, I thought that was like a universal game that everybody had played and loved.
That's what it seemed like to me. It was
right?
like everyone but me has played this game.
But did you like it?
I thought it was good. It's not, again, it's like that thing, it's the same thing with Final Fantasy X. It's been so hyped up, there's no way it could live up to my high expectations. But it's very cool having like played Zelda throughout the years, and to like go back to the game that kind of established so much of it. You're just like playing through and you're like, oh yeah, this stuff with the temples and the items and the Zelda formula, this is kind of where that all started. And so, yeah, I'm definitely happy I got to play it. It's like that thing where, like, if you're interested in video game history, it's one of the games you definitely should play.
Right. Yeah. I will say, yeah, the game kind of does shit its pants at the end. Like the last two dungeons are kind of bad. They're not good. They're bad.
I was feeling the slog once you like go to once it becomes like the dark world. Like that's when it gets pretty sloggy.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. And then you have to do like kind of like the stupid little quest to blow open a hole somewhere so you can go fight Ganon.
Right.
And that kind of gets annoying, but like you said, it's a game that everybody should play, but I can see how it's not your thing, having played other Zeldas. My favorite is Ocarina of Time. Nothing is ever going to dethrone Ocarina of Time as my favorite Zelda. But I can see why people would hate it too, because it does get very annoying, especially that final dungeon where you have to become a kid, then an adult, then a kid, then an adult, and beat the dungeon. Like,
I played Ocarina. I played Ocarina later in life too, like in college for the first time. And yeah, again, things are very much a product of the moment in which they were released. Like when you cannot understate the fact that like when Ocarina came out, it was a revelation. It was revolutionary, and it was the biggest thing ever. And going back and playing it, like if you put your mindset in that time period, you're like, yeah, I can totally see like the games around this time, like they were still trying to figure out 3D, and like then this gigantic Zelda adventure comes along, and it's just like insane. It's incredible. It's bigger than anything we've ever seen before. So yeah, that was one on my list that I've gotten off. There are a lot more to go of shameful sins.
No, I had never finished Chrono Trigger. I think I had put like maybe 2 hours every time that I tried to start it. And I finished it last year for the first time, and I did an episode with Thrak and my wife on it. And I can see why people think it's one of the greatest games of all time. And I think that you will definitely enjoy it.
I'm just shocked that I haven't yet because I mean, I love Final Fantasy and I love Dragon Ball. So like Akira Toriyama, that would be like a no-brainer. And I just haven't because I just playing Kingdom Hearts for the 47th time.
Now, what console are you thinking about playing it on?
I'd probably just emulate it, honestly.
Just emulate it?
Yeah, that's how I would have to play it, I would assume. Unless, I don't even know if it's available anywhere else. I know it's not on the Switch. Oh, it is on the DS. I do have my DS. Oh, I guess I can look up how much. Do you think that's a better way to play it, probably?
I played it on the DS, and the DS has all the anime cutscenes from the PlayStation version.
Oh, okay.
I think that was, for me, the best way to play it. Burger Champ on our Discord is like, no. But also Burger Champ did play it on the Super Nintendo when it came out. Actually, don't play it on DS. It's between $67 and $200.
Woof. Oh.
Yeah.
I'll see if they'll take some Funko Pops in a trade. Just barter with them.
Right? It's like, I'll give you these 2 Funko Pops for Chrono Trigger.
Be like, well, I don't like Funko Pops. Be like, well, I guess I'm out of luck. Yeah. I mean, I guess I probably shouldn't say I won't emulate it. That's not legal. Wink, wink.
I mean, I can lend you my cartridge, right? And then if you rip it onto your computer and put it on your console, then you technically are playing a legal version of it.
Yes. I just don't want Miyamoto to show up at my house at night and like kidnap me. Throw me into the Nintendo van.
Right. And Reggie's sitting there. You're like, yes. I thought you quit. He's like, never.
He still rolls out the punishment because that's the part of the job he actually enjoys.
Right. Mario Ambassador? No, more like Mario Punisher.
Yeah, right.
But I'm kind of surprised you haven't played Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI as well, because that. But then again, when I played Final Fantasy VI was way after 7 and 8 were out. Right. And I would tell my friends, this game is awesome. And they're like, it's 2D. Fuck that game.
Yeah, right. When all the Final Fantasy snobs came on board and they're like, oh, this is the future. It's like, nobody wants to play 2D anymore.
Right. It's like, oh, Tidus laughs and Terra does nothing. Like, it's still good.
I would rather have Terra do nothing than hear the Tidus laugh, honestly, if I'm being 100% honest.
That scene. I showed that scene to my wife without context, and then I showed it to her with context, and she's like, that is fucking ridiculous. I never want to see that again.
If they ever if they start nominating more of these Final Fantasies for the remake treatment, if they remake 10, they cannot change that scene. They just have to use the same. Like it's part of the lore. It's part of the story now. You just have to keep that awful scene in there. Even if you redo all the voice acting, that you have to keep that.
Just splice it in, and there's a noticeable drop in audio
quality. Yeah,
it's like super compressed.
It'd be worth it.
Now that you bring that up, before we go into another topic, what are some other games that you have in your blind spot?
Oh man, most of all of the Persona series.
Really?
Yeah, I've heard for 5 years everyone talk about Persona 5, and I'm just again, that's probably right up my alley, and I have not gotten to it. Just haven't. All of Metal Gear, which we've talked about before. Never. Right. I've never played a Kojima game. Metal Gear, Death Stranding, nothing. So
really,
yeah. So as obsessive diehard disciple of Nomura I would probably eat up a Kojima game, and I've never gone out of my way. I've never gone out of my way to experience one. So but with the collection coming out in a couple months, I was like, this is my chance, because they're releasing even the old ones that were on the MSX or whatever it was, all the way through. I think it's 3. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. And with the 3 remake coming out too. So that's my chance to remedy that.
Oh man, you've never played a Kojima game. I
Never.
thought that you were just like, I've never played Metal Gear. No, you've never played a Kojima game.
No, I've always heard the man talked about in just insane ways, but never experienced it. And we've talked about that too. When I think you messaged me when I was doing the Kingdom Hearts series. If you're like, if you ever want more mind fuckery, you're like, go just do the Metal Gear series. And I'm just like, yeah, that'll probably happen.
Yeah. And they're like the Metal Gear series. It's crazy because it's a whole mind fuck from start to finish. But then like things that they tell you that are turn up that they are, but not quite what they told you that they are. So
Oh, I live for that shit. Hell yeah.
right. And then like if you don't pay attention to every cutscene, you're not gonna notice that this thing is not what you thought it was, and then you're gonna be confused for the rest of time. And you're gonna confuse the fan base because you're gonna tell them it's this, and they're like, but I thought it was this. It's it's crazy. It's so crazy. Now, if you want to play Death Stranding, I would suggest just have other games that you can break up Death Stranding around, because Death Stranding is Amazon delivery simulator.
I've heard it's a very good walking simulator.
I put a lot of time into that game, and at the end it felt like a massive waste of time, but it was worth it. I feel
it
like
was a waste of time, but it was worth it. Okay.
right. I feel like I wasted my time playing that game, but thinking back on it, I really enjoyed the game, even though it felt like a huge nothing game.
Only Kojima can pull that off. God damn it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Final Fantasy 15 somewhat pulled that off, but I've just gotten more sour as time goes by when I think about Final Fantasy 15.
I really, now that you mentioned that, we're off another tangent. I only ever I played that when it first came out, and I haven't touched it since. I'd be curious. People say the Royal Edition is pretty good. They fixed a lot of the problems. So I'd be curious to go back now, especially with 16 and 7 Remake out, and play the Royal Edition, just kind of see. Because I was higher on that game again when it came out than everybody, and I still feel like I kind of am, because there's something there. You can kind of see it, but it's just, it does so many other things. You're just like, why? Why is there a movie with Jesse from Breaking Bad and Sean Bean dies? And why is there all this other stuff around it? Why did Cup Noodles buy sponsorship in this Final Fantasy game? I don't know. I don't get it.
It's strange. And it does that weird thing that Final Fantasy games do where your party looks very out of place compared to the rest of the world.
Yeah, everyone just looks like normal, and it's just these 4 dudes coming through, and you're just like, yeah, they're the protagonists, you can tell.
Right? You got like Uncle Jesse from Full House, you have Sasuke, you have some chef dude from Iron Chef. You know, it's just
Yeah.
it's weird.
Yeah. No, that was, the choices were made there. That's for that whole history with, and I'm kind of starting to touch on that in my Kingdom Hearts series, where like Versus 13 happened, and then it didn't happen, and then all that stuff that happened to Square during that time period that resulted in 15 being the way it was kind of crosses over with all the stuff for Kingdom Hearts that was going on. So we're starting to get into that, and it's Square Enix during the early 2010s was a disaster. It was just a nightmare.
See, now that you bring that up, they were, and I like where they are right now. I am really enjoying Square Enix right now because we're getting high quality, lower releases. So,
Right.
Live Alive, Octopath,
Yes.
Various Day Life, whatever that is, Deal Field. We're getting a bunch of little games that are actually high quality, and they are reminiscent of what Square used to be. And I really like that. And then we get thrown in a huge fucking Final Fantasy 16, and then in a few months we're getting a 7 remake part 2. I mean, I like where they are, and some people are they don't like it. They don't like what Square's doing.
I think they've gotten a lot of negative press coverage for, they've done a couple of kind of crappy things. Like one, their CEO coming out and like, they're like, yeah, we're all on board with NFTs, and everyone's just like, no, please don't do that. Don't do that to us. And then I just think that when they sold Eidos Montreal and Crystal Dynamics and all the Western studios that they had that put out stuff that
was
people,
a bad move.
Yeah, that people seem to like. They put out the Guardians of the Galaxy game that's pretty good. I haven't played
my God.
the Tomb Raider remakes, but I understand that those were pretty good games. So, and then they just like, now we're gonna like sell these off. So, on like the one hand, yeah, I agree with you. I think Square's in a better spot than they have been in a long time. I don't agree with how they got there, and I'm hoping they keep the NFT crypto stuff just away from the games that I like. Please, for the love of God.
No, they got to keep it separate from the games because I don't want to have to pay, $25 for a unique weapon that I only get to use in one game and nobody else has that weapon. I don't care for that. Right?
No, I wouldn't care either. Like, just please stop.
Man, you haven't played the Tomb Raider games?
No, I've heard they're good though. I have both of them free on the Epic Store because they were free. I think they're giving them away, so I have them. Just haven't gotten around to them.
Do you like Uncharted?
I've played Uncharted 1, 2, and 3. I have to finish the last one. So yeah, I enjoy them. It's fun.
Okay, so those games are if Uncharted was good. It's the best way that I can describe them. It's the best way that I can describe it because
that's fair.
I've gone into Uncharted a lot on this show and talked my shit about Uncharted, but I can still recognize how it's a good game. But the Tomb Raider games, they are wow. All three games are pretty much just how Lara Croft became Lara Croft.
That sounds great. I should play those. Add them to the backlog.
We're just adding games onto your backlog.
Yeah. And I appreciate, Chris, that you do that too. You're just like you like everything that we've talked about or certain things, the topics you've had, you've been like, I may not agree with it, but I can see why people think it's good or why it's important. And I think that's definitely a good mindset to have instead of just like, this sucks. This is stupid. I don't like it. It's dumb. This should never exist. Be like, no, something may not be for me, but it's still important to like games overall. And that's just kind of like what we have to live with.
Yeah. I mean, I
just wanted to commend you for that.
Thank you. I'm not a huge Naughty Dog fan, and listeners know that I'm not a huge Naughty Dog fan.
What about Crash Bandicoot?
It's okay. It's okay.
That's fair.
I am, because I've played a lot of games. I really wish, I hope that when I die, whatever greets me on the other side tells me this is what you did with your time. I want to be told exactly how many hours I spent playing games throughout my entire life, because I've played a ton of games, and then I've played the Naughty Dog games, and none of them have been what people say they are.
Wow. Interesting. Even Last of Us, huh? I think you did an episode on that. I think I listened to your episode on that, I believe.
Right. Yeah, the patrons voted for The Last of Us because I decided to pick a bunch of games that I know that I hate. And they're like, oh, he really hates The Last of Us, so let's make him play The Last of Us remake. And I ended up loving the combat. They fixed the combat. Combat on the remake is incredible. Story's still crap.
I played the first one on PS3 and then nothing since then. So I haven't played the second one, even though I know what happens, but
I love the second one. And I was talking with Will from Friday Night Gamecast, and he feels the same way. Like, I don't like the first one. I think the second one is great. And then we also feel the same way about Uncharted. 1, 2, or 3 are fine, but 4 is when Naughty Dog really came into their own, and they're like, this is exactly what Naughty Dog has been said about all these years. That story's great. Really good. You haven't played it?
No, 4's the last one. I've been playing all of them throughout the last couple of years because I had the collection.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah, 4's the last one I have. And what was that? Lost Legacy, I think was one too.
Yes, with Nadine and Chloe. That one's pretty good too.
Yeah.
Because they basically took the gameplay and just put Nadine and Chloe into it, and they're nice. Great together. But yeah, that's Naughty Dog is a sore spot.
Yeah, definitely.
But I can't wait to see what else they do. Like, I'm always gonna buy their games and play them, even though I'll bitch the entire time about it.
That's they've become an experience, and everyone who plays video games kind of is just like, oh, Naughty Dog's coming out with something. Well, we have to check this out. It's just kind of our duty as gamers to see what they're doing. So
right. Now, is there, like, I feel about Naughty Dog. Is there a game company or a game series or anything that you feel like I hate this, but I hate this?
Boy. Um, I guess this is always a hard one for me because I wouldn't say that like I'm genuinely pretty positive when it comes to most video games. There's not really anything where I'm just like, yeah, I completely just hated my time with this. Like I have pretty fond memories of like most everything that I've played, even if some of the stuff like wasn't for me. If I had to like pick and single out somebody where I was just kind of like, this doesn't really live up to like what everybody was saying. Probably this might be sacrilege. I don't know. Might keep me canceling a show, but I kind of feel that way about Rockstar. If I can be 100% honest, like GTA 5 didn't really do anything for me. Red Dead 2 didn't really do anything I loved Red Dead 1, but like Red Dead 2 and GTA 5 just have not done anything for me. I own like 4 copies of GTA 5. I've really tried with GTA 5. I have it on PC, Xbox 360, PlayStation, and Xbox One. I've tried with it, but I can't. I just don't know what it is.
Man, Rockstar is another one. I love some of their games. I love some of like the Warriors. I absolutely fucking love the Warriors.
Their old work is so like Bully and like Max
Bully
Payne.
was fantastic.
Like now they don't do any of that shit anymore.
Right? And like I was always off on the GTA games, Vice City 3 and San Andreas. I was like, they're games. But those other ones that weren't GTA, I was like, holy shit, these are great. And same thing with Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2. But GTA 5, I'm like, it's another open world crime game. Like,
yeah.
What's special about it?
It's their control scheme is not the control scheme of a modern video game. It's just not. I feel like paraplegic sack of potatoes when I play GTA. It's just like I'm tapping A to run. Are we serious right now? Like what are we doing with our lives?
That's so weird.
Yeah, I feel the same. Like I understand why their game is huge and like it makes more sense for them to just like make one game and make like $6 billion off of it. Like I understand, but I just like I played Red Dead 2. I thought it was cool. It's a beautiful world. It's a cool story. It's just they didn't do anything for me. And I'm sure like the sap I am, I will pick up GTA 6 when it comes out just so I can experience it.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm sure it'll be the huge whole United States or whatever they're hyping it up to be.
Right? And we'll play through the entire story. We'll see the ending. And at the end, we'll just be like, it was a game.
Yep. And I'll get it. And then I'll buy it when they port it to PlayStation 7, 8, 9 because they won't make another game for 20 years. And then there will be.
That is interesting to meet somebody else that thinks that Rockstar is okay.
I've just never been as high on them as everybody. Their older stuff, yes. That whole... Like when they were doing other stuff other than GTA, and even I thought Red Dead 1 was pretty good. But yeah, ever since GTA 5 and Red Dead 2, I just haven't been super high on them. Like they're there. I don't mind them. I don't hate them. I'm glad I experienced Red Dead 2 and GTA 5, but they're kind of there.
Right. Yeah, no, I completely get that. And yeah, I think that with Rockstar, just having them be the pioneers of the open world genre, or actually popularizing it, because that's pretty much what they did, because they did pioneer it, but they actually made it themselves be like this giant thing that everybody else then wanted to copy.
Right.
I don't know. I've never saw the magic in it. Like I recently replayed True Crime Streets of LA. Terrible fucking game. It's a garbage game. I had an amazing time with it. And playing the entire game, I was like, why did I want to play GTA when I was a kid instead of this? And now I'm playing this, and this is so much better. Right.
You just don't have that perspective when you're younger. But yeah, and honestly, to their credit, nobody has really been able to replicate what they've done. I mean, to have GTA 5 be this online open world playground that you can play, and that's been going strong for over 10 years now, made them a bunch of money. I mean, that's every AAA developer's dream. Nobody else has really been able to emulate that style of game. So
they haven't even really been able to replicate it themselves with Red Dead Online.
Right. Well, how do you go from like having some of the ridiculous stuff in GTA 5 to like riding horses in Red Dead? Like you'd have to have like a rocket powered horse or something. I mean,
That would be awesome.
yeah, I think so too. They should have fully leaned into that. I'm like, yeah, give me like
Right?
some like crazy automobiles. Just do something that's like, yes, we know this is like a cowboy game, but just make it like give me rocket powered carriages or something. I don't know.
Right? Like, man, a rocket power horse, you just like ride the horse straight into the bank, hop off it as it blows up the bank vault. And all you have to do is run in and grab the money and run out.
That's a game I would play. 100%.
Right? It would be awesome.
Yes.
Now, last question that I had, I wanted to get this in earlier, but I have no structure. Tell me about games that you loved while you were growing up, games that that have, apart from Kingdom Hearts, because you told me about Kingdom Hearts already, games that
Right.
you have significant memories attached to and stuff like that.
Right. Well, I've said a lot on my show. The first video game I have memories of playing is Super Mario World, and that was like a formative childhood memory when I was 3. I remember my dad bringing home the Super Nintendo, setting it up on like the dresser, playing on like the small CRT TV that we had, and just I died so much on that first level to the charging chuck, and that's just like a really early childhood memory that's seared in my brain. And to this day, like Super Mario World is a game that I play like at least once a year. Like for the last 20 years, I've gone out of my way to play it at least once a year. So that was a really big one. And to this day, I've always held Mario in very high regard just because of what I can't imagine how different my life would be without him. So Mario is something that I know that's kind of like a cliche answer, but it's something that and I say every time a mainline Mario game comes out that it's the best game of that year. I just think we've been so spoiled by Mario's greatness for so long that we just kind of take him for granted. So Super Mario World was a big one. The game that I credit with my love for RPGs is actually Final Fantasy IX, another one I've talked about on my show. And that game was just a revelation. Up until Final Fantasy IX, even though I played Super Mario RPG before that, I didn't really like understand as like a young kid that games could have like this storytelling like structure and tell these incredible sweeping stories the way that Final Fantasy IX did. And by that time, I was getting heavy into reading like fantasy, and Harry Potter had just come out. So I was just like reading so much fantasy and these elaborate stories that I could get my hands on at such a young age. And for a video game to be able to do that when I just thought that like books and movies were the only thing that could do that, it just kind of blew my mind. So any given day, if I don't say that Kingdom Hearts 2 is my favorite game, it's Final Fantasy IX. That's like, and again, I probably try and play that one at least, if not once a year, like every other year, pretty regularly. So, and to this day, it's my favorite Final Fantasy. Nothing will dethrone it. And then it just kind of starts to go, kind of by years and eras as you grow up. Like when Halo came out, that was huge. And like my friends and I played Halo for 10 years, every single one that came out. And then Call of Duty 4 came out, and then that was huge for like 5 years, and we were playing every single Call of Duty game that came out, and it's just kind of, and then Monster Hunter, I'd say probably Monster Hunter was like the next revelation in gaming and kind of changed my perspective on what I think about games and shifted me away from like my really hardcore competitive shooter days to like playing games that like appreciating like the grind more and appreciating games that take longer and a little bit more spaced out than just like the quick dopamine hits of like online competitive shooters. And then probably the really, really last major one was when Destiny came out from Bungie, I was really, really, really big into the first Destiny. And I had like a dedicated group of friends we played with. We did all the raids like every single week for like so many years. And I'm kind of sad that game is kind of gone and Destiny's kind of turned into the hellscape free-to-play live service game that it has. But that game was just, it was really the first time I was part of a games community, like as it was growing and forming and just experiencing all these events alongside all these other people. So those are just a couple of the many that have had an impact on me. But yeah, Kingdom Hearts was huge. And obviously too, I think it goes without saying, everybody our age, Pokemon was a huge thing when we were younger. I mean, that was inescapable for everybody. And I will play every single one of those that comes out just because it makes me feel like a kid again. So that's just a long rambling answer. That's just a couple of the many that have I would say had an impact on my life for sure.
The one about Final Fantasy IX having a story that you didn't think could happen in a video game, that resonates with me. And it resonates with me with Tales of the Abyss. I had
Yeah.
played a bunch
Okay.
of RPGs. I had played, a bunch of games with stories. I had played Final Fantasy IX, and no game up until that point had resonated with me like Tales of the Abyss did. Because you have this shithead character at the start of the game, and by the end, he is noble, willing to sacrifice himself to do the right thing. And the things that happen throughout the journey that help him change are things that I never thought I would see in a video game, like see a child drown in a sea of poison.
Right.
That is something that I never thought I would see in a game, and I saw it and I was like, holy fuck, this game it's heavy. And so that I feel that, like, this is the game that made me understand stories can be in a game. And yeah.
And it's those types of games too that really make you realize, because even like growing up, like gaming wasn't like as mainstream as it was now. So in school, like not as many people were playing as many games as I was. And even like growing up, my parents didn't understand, well, why do you spend so much time playing these games? It's kind of like a waste of time. Go outside and, play in the sun, that whole thing. And it's not until you experience, and again, for a lot of people, gaming is they buy Call of Duty and Madden every year, and that's video games to them. That's fine. But people don't really understand like what you try to tell them about video games until they have like one of those like resonating experiences like you and I have had. And then people are just really like, oh, this is a medium that can like really, even more than reading or movies or anything, like the stories have the ability to connect with a person on a deeper level because you are playing the person that the things are happening to. And that's constantly what I try to like preach to people. And even now when I'm 30 and people are like, oh, you're still playing a lot of games. It's like, yes, but these games just resonate with me and connect with me in a way that like nothing else can. And the stories that they tell are different than anything else in any other medium. And that's what I value in them. So yeah, until you have an experience like that. And like I said, unless you're like you play the COD and the Madden, like that's your thing. Like I'm happy for you. That's great. But and until you can get somebody who's a skeptic of video games to like experience that moment, then they're not going to get it.
Right. And to add to that point, The Last of Us TV show was that for a lot of people.
Right.
A lot of people were like, this was a game. They're like,
Yeah.
like, I want more. Let's get a PlayStation and Last of Us 2 and see what happens next. My mother-in-law was one of them too. She's like, I don't get video games. And now she's like, okay, I can see why people like video games now.
Right. And I think that's, again, we give Naughty Dog crap and Last of Us crap because it's always talked about and hyped and all this stuff. But yeah, if it takes something like that for people to realize that this is like a legitimate medium, which they already should because it makes more money than freaking movies at this point. So, which I'm more than happy for that.
I think I heard that it's more than movies, music, and television combined.
That's unbelievable. I right? Growing up, I never would have thought that.
Right?
Never would have thought it.
There was something else that I wanted to echo that you were saying. I completely forgot. Shit. Oh well. So yeah, no. Parents. While I was growing up, my parents encouraged it. Then I got to a certain age, and they're like, "Okay, you have to stop playing games," and I just kept going. And now that I'm an adult and they see that I still play, they're like, okay, I get why you play. It's what you do. I'm like, yeah, okay, now you get it. It's not a waste of time because I learned how to speak English by playing video games. I learned how to read English by playing video games. I mean, I had motor skill issues while I was growing up, and video games helped me with my hand-eye coordination.
Right.
So it's not just you're wasting your time. I don't want to say I'm making myself better, but I am making myself better.
Right. And I think for me as well, growing up, I had really bad asthma. I couldn't play sports in school. So I felt really ostracized from like the other friend groups of kids that like did play sports. And, I went through some depression stuff in my 20s after college and trying to figure out what my career was. I think everybody can kind of relate to like being in your 20s, approaching your 30s, and being like, "Fuck, I haven't figured out my life. Like, what am I gonna do?" And through everything, through all the just horrible times, like games have. It's kind of silly to say out loud, but I mean, games have been there for me and
Oh,
have
yeah.
just been kind of like the safe haven that I can go to when I'm just like, F everything that's going on in this world. I'll just escape to another world that I can just pretend to be in and not deal with this BS for a little while. So yeah, and this the power. And you're not the first person I've talked to that was like, yeah, like video games like help me learn how to read and helped improve. Like I'm able to like pay attention and stuff like that. I just yeah, people discount it quick and just are like, yeah, it's just nerdy, you're wasting your time, but it's more than that. And that's really what I try to communicate at my show and show by the passion on my show. It's just like, hey, this is a thing that means a lot, and there's a lot behind this when you really dig into it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I 100% agree. It's might seem childish, and it's 100% because it's a practically brand new medium. It's what 40 years old, so it hasn't been around as long as movies or TV or theater or literature or whatever. So people still shit on it because it's somewhat young.
Right.
But it's evolved like crazy. It does some incredible things. I don't know if you've heard about this game called That Dragon Cancer.
I have heard about it, yes.
So it's a game that this guy created to basically tell the story and help him cope with his child dying of cancer. I think the kid died when he was 3 years old.
Right.
And it's the entire game is just him and his wife going through the steps of him being born and the lead up to what that happened. And that's powerful. Like you're not gonna be able to experience that sort of story with the same sort of immersion anywhere else. And like it helped him by creating it, I'm sure it'll help a whole bunch of other people that might go through the same situation.
Yeah, I've read about that one specifically, and I've wanted to check it out. I just knowing that background around it though, I'm just like, man, this would probably just emotionally crush me.
Oh yeah, no man,
Yeah.
it's my wife and I. We don't want kids. We don't want to be around kids, but we would have a rough time with a game like that. Very rough time.
My wife and I do want kids, and so I think playing that would be like, yeah, that would maybe give me a little bit of pause.
Oh yeah, but yeah. Somber note, man. That is not usually where this podcast goes. Like usually I'm being stupid and making jokes and shit, but
we're in our feels today, Chris. It's all right.
Oh yeah, man. It was a Monday. I feel like I didn't touch my computer all day except for when somebody needed a password change.
Right. Hey, it's okay for people to be in their feels. It's okay. Let your emotions out. It's okay.
I'm emotional because I work too much.
Right.
So, Eric, this has been fantastic. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. We're already at 1 hour and 7 minutes. Is there anything else you want to say before we go into you talking about your show? Any lingering thoughts or anything?
I just got to say, 1:07 really flew by. That was, this was an absolute blast. And just tell you really quick, thank you, Chris, for having me on. I've been a fan of anovelconsole for most of this year. It's become part of my regular rotation. So and I feel like it's the crazy thing about podcasting. I've listened to you so much that I feel like I like know you, but this is the first time we've like really talked face to face. So
right.
But this was just so much fun and a great experience, and definitely whenever you want me to come back on again, I'll come back on for sure.
Oh no,
if you'll have me.
Definitely do. No, of course, anytime, dude. If you just want to sit down and talk shit about a game or tell me about something that you played or something that you think I like, you're more than welcome to. I'm always down to talk about video games with people because nobody in my immediate vicinity will talk about video games with me.
We'll just do a Rockstar roast episode.
Oh man, yes, we will talk about how bad of a character Tommy Vercetti is.
Oh yeah. No, yeah, we can close it out. That's fine.
So tell me about the Unlockables, this fantastic and amazing podcast that you have made my life revolve around that has taken over my Wednesdays. Tell me about it.
Well, I'm sorry for ruining your life. Let me apologize off it right there. But yeah, no, the Unlockables is a little solo project I started, and I bill it as the story of video games, the people who play them, and the memories made along the way. And I kind of started it last year with the intention of having guests on and just kind of what we're doing now, talking about our memories around video games and just kind of whatever random topics would come up. And we did that for a while. The guests have become, I haven't had as many guests on this year as I've wanted to, just because of time. And when the Kingdom Hearts thing kind of took off, I kind of started just doing more solo pieces by myself, just because with everything going on in my life, I was just like, I just can't collab with people as much as I want to anymore. So the last couple episodes have just been like stuff I've been writing, like the Kingdom Hearts stuff. A lot more series are coming up, and just kind of random, like whatever I feel like I kind of want to talk about. But I always kind of take the element of like telling the story of video games, whether that's the story about an actual game, the history, the development behind it, just some of like the fun facts, or just kind of like that. I just want people to be able to come to the show and just be like, not hear an analysis if I love or hate a game, but just hear, hey, this is what the game was, and this is kind of what it did, and this is the story behind it, and this is kind of what it was. So that's kind of what I've been doing the last year of Unlockables.
I gotta say, man, every time I hear you say the tagline of the video games we love, and can you please repeat it, because it's so nice.
Yeah, it's the story of video games, the people who play them, and the memories made along the way.
That is fucking gold, dude. That is so good.
A $70,000 marketing degree good for something.
Oh, dude, if you spent that much just to come up with that line, I feel like you scammed your school, dude.
They're like, we didn't charge you more money. God damn. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So good. I found out about your show earlier this year, when I kind of fell into this wonderful community that we have. And I was on it. I went twice to San Diego for my old job to do some repairs on some servers and whatnot. And I had my phone loaded with a bunch of episodes from Tales of the Backlog, from you, specifically your 12 Days of Christmas. I think I listened to the 12 Days of Christmas from start to finish on my way from San Diego back to Orlando.
Man.
Those were so much fun. And the fact that you took the time to record one almost an hour long episode per game, that was insane.
Man. Yeah, going back to looking at that last year, I had that crazy idea, and I was going to have on, I think I only had on 10 guests. I talked about 2 of the games by myself. But yeah, I literally, from December 12th to December 24th, I released 12 episodes in a row, and they were about, an hour long. Yeah, that was an undertaking that I'm not sure it's feasible for my life or my marriage to do that again. But that was a lot of fun, and it was a really great time. Just kind of a really cool way to review the year in video games, review the games that I played. And some of those games weren't even games that came out in 2022. They were just kind of all over the board. So yeah, I'm thank you for the kind words. I'm happy that you enjoyed them. And that was, thinking about that stresses me out a little bit, because it's almost Christmas time again.
No, man, I was listening to it. And I was like, the work ethic that this man has. And from there, it just took off. Unlockables every Wednesday, or whenever an episode comes out, I have to listen to it. I listened to. I really got
to give all the credit to Keith from the Main Quest, because he kind of dragged me into this community, and that's kind of I give him all the credit, because I never would have probably met any of you guys without him. So he's kind of the podcasting godfather, and the web that binds us all.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you think that somebody is just, somebody that found the community. No, somehow Keith roped them in.
It's 100%. Yeah, I put on my first episode, and he's like, "Hey, I like this," and I'm like, "I don't know you. Who? Like, leave me alone."
Like, somebody added me added the Novel Console Instagram today and they started messaging me. I'm like, who the fuck is this person? And then I look, and it's somebody that I've interacted with on the main quest Discord.
Right.
I'm like, oh, so Keith brought them in because he's like, oh, I'm one of Keith's friends. I'm like, wow.
He's the man behind it all, I swear. And that's one of the coolest parts, because I never would have thought that, like, when everybody starts a video game podcast, you're like, yeah, this is going to be cool and it's going to be super unique. And then you realize that there are so many video game podcasts out there. But then, like, the byproduct of that is you just meet all these, like, really, like, I haven't met one person in our community that I was just like, yeah, that person's a complete dick. Like, there's so many great people. Right. We've just been really lucky. Right. So.
And like, the thing is, everybody has a video game podcast, but they're all different. Like, I haven't listened to an episode that's the exact same thing as I've heard from somebody else. Like, Dave has a super in-depth podcast with Tales from Backlog. You have amazing storytelling. Rick is incredibly smart and just brings out things in games that I never would have thought that I would have even thought about playing the game to think of them that way. Keith is Keith. His episodes they're an experience. Everybody needs to listen to a main quest episode because they are very unique and very entertaining.
Absolutely.
Shit. I am not nostalgic for Pokemon Red and Blue. He made me nostalgic for Pokemon Red and Blue.
Yeah, I was on that one. That was a long one.
That was such a good episode though. But yeah, no, I love this community and everybody's fucking amazing. And I hope that I can bring everybody on one by one to do this because this has been a shit ton of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you again for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So where can people find you on the Unlockables?
Oh, I'm old school. I think that Linktree is out, but I use it anyways still. You can go to linktr.ee/Unlockables Podcast, and that's where all of the links are. I have a little Discord that I run. It's not quite as busy as other people's, but you know, we post some questionable things in there sometimes, so come on by and check that out. And it has all the other links. It has my personal Twitter, the show Twitter, Instagram, and that's pretty much where I interact with anybody. So linktr.ee/Unlockables Podcast. And you probably hear my dog barking in the background. I apologize.
That's fine. If listener, if your brain is a little bit slow like mine is, don't worry. I will put the link tree on the show notes so you can just click the hyperlink and it'll throw you to Eric's link tree so that you can follow him everywhere and listen to his everything because he deserves all the listens.
Thank you.
So thank you for coming on the show, man. This was a whole lot more fun than I thought it was going to be, and I thought it was going to be pretty fun to start with. So that's pretty much it for this week's episode. Eric, do you want to say goodbye to everyone?
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for tolerating me being on Chris's show.
Oh, I'm sure they liked it. If not, they better have liked it. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.